Hi, my name is Chris and I'm a PhD researcher with Exeter University's Anthrozoology as Symbiotic Ethics Working Group, or EASE. My research focuses on cat-human relations and discourses surrounding free-roaming urban cats. Shown here is a family of street cats I met in Athens in 2019. And today, rather than talk about my research directly, I'm going to tell you about how I fail as a researcher and as a cat guardian to respect the privacy of cats, and why this might be a problem. One aspect of my PhD research entails observing cats I encounter around town in the form of observational notes and accompanying photos or movie clips. I do not impose myself upon these cats. If they approach me and initiate contact, that is all good, but mostly it is observation from a distance. I believe these cats are largely aware of me and sometimes are clearly keeping their distance, hiding from me or watching me from behind a car or a bush. And then another thread of my research involves interviewing human participants about their relationship with their cat or cats. As these interviews were primarily via Zoom, my presence did not impose upon the cat, but their stories and images will be included in my study, having acquired informed consent from the human participants on behalf of themselves and their feline companions. Although research ethic boards and the guidelines provided by my university are primarily concerned with protecting humans from foreseeable negative consequences, the process of applying for ethical approval for my research has forced me to think more deeply about how I interact with and respect cats, including my own feline family members. I like to believe that I've always endeavored to be respectful towards all animals, including humans, and have been mindful not to invade personal and bodily space. But as far as covert observations and the notion of privacy being extended to more than human animals, I confess I was somewhat perplexed when the issue of privacy first came up during one of my MA tutorials. Honestly, I was like, why are we worrying about this when clearly animals are not bothered by our secret cameras, and why are we worried when there are bigger issues worthy of our attention? And I think this internal conflict between ideology and pragmatism is what continues to bother me about the issue of more than human animal privacy. At this point, it's necessary to provide some definitions. Adam Moore describes two types of privacy, bodily and informational. The former refers to the moral rights of a person to control access to their body, capacities and powers. The latter relates to personal information about oneself. And while privacy is generally recognized as being essential to human liberty, Mulligan et al. Point out how the precise definition, legality, and ethics of privacy is highly contested. For humans, Stuart Shapiro believes the concept of privacy is embedded in the notion of private and public spaces. And in contemporary societies, a home is generally considered to be a private place. But what of companion animals who share their homes with humans? This is Yodra in one of her safe places. The photo was taken when a lot of construction was going on and she was hiding in the drawer under the bed. She did not give permission for me to invade her space, nor share this image with you. But I decided it was okay. Speaking exclusively for humans, Moore claims privacy, whether physical or informational, is valuable for beings like us. But what, and by that he meant humans. But what of the privacy of more than human animals? Here we have a spoof Cat General Data Protection Regulation, or GDPR. This announcement showed up in one of my many Facebook cat groups that I'm a member of. It makes fun of the EU's relatively new GDPR legislation, which many of us have been frustrated or confused by at some point. But in doing so, this post trivializes the notion of privacy being extended to more than human animals. The message implies that the very idea of extending privacy rights to cats is ridiculous. But is it? When I started my MA, I would have agreed that it was both a pointless and silly issue. But it got me thinking. And the concept of privacy in relation to more than human animals is something that I continue to grapple with, both as a researcher and personally as a cat guardian. I've taken numerous photos of street cats over the year and befriended felines around the world. Since the onset of social media, I have shared these images freely online. I've also shared intimate moments of my own cats, including images that portray them as silly or what in retrospect could be seen as demeaning. I understand now the potential danger of showing this image of my cat on the far right in a Halloween costume, because it might have encouraged others to subject their cats to an activity they hate. And Sophie did hate every moment of being dressed up. In my defense, she was still teaching me about cats, and made it pretty clear I should never, ever do that again. And I did learn a lot from both my cats. But this is a form of representation that is distinct from the privacy issue. And while my cat has private spaces she can retreat to, I feel little shame about sharing her most intimate moments with other cat lovers. And having said that, she does not seek out a private place to clean her bottom, shown in the middle right picture here. Yet the idea of finding myself the subject of a meme fills me with dread. I get nervous around people in the gym who are using their phones for this very reason. And imagine for one moment if I conducted a similar study on street humans rather than cats, taking photographs and field notes of homeless humans I met around town. I suspect at least my ethics application would have been not so straightforward. But why might humans be special or deserving of special consideration? I gave an example just now of how I would hate to encounter a recording of myself doing something I deemed embarrassing or unflattering. I value my privacy in other ways too. And a knowledge of any violation of that privacy would most likely cause me distress. So perhaps it is a non-issue if more than human animals cannot know their private moments or personal details are shared with humans. Having said that, human privacy is still respected to some degree, even if a person is unable to fully comprehend the concept, such as very small children or coma patients. And even the intimate details of dead humans, or at least recently deceased persons, is considered sacred and protected by various laws. And that still applies even if that person has no family or friends who might be upset upon their behalf. So why might privacy matter regardless of whether or not an individual can be fully aware that their privacy has been disrespected? And regardless of whether or not they might feel negatively impacted by that transgression? I suggest that the reason it matters is it shows respect for the dignity of more than human animals. Respecting the privacy of animal bodies is one more step towards recognizing them as ethically significant beings with agency. Eliza Altola suggests that the concept of privacy is tied to that of dignity, which is why the privacy of deceased humans is upheld. Brett Mills claims that granting the right to privacy to humans while disavowing other species such rights is a form of speciesism that allows humans to maintain their dominance. As both co-creators of meaning and sources of valuable data, more than human animals should merit the same consideration offered to human research informants. And I believe that as anthrozoologists who consider more than human animals to be ethically significant beings, we should at least attempt to respect their privacy, in principle, even if it seems not always possible in practice. And to illustrate this latter point, this is a photo of two cat house residents. Although they do have private hiding places in their room, they are constantly monitored because studying their behavior and personality is important to the process of successfully rehoming. So how should we attempt to respect privacy? Should we be blurring the faces of more than human animals before disseminating our research? And I'm not talking about concealing the identity of those who might be targeted by humans who seek to do them harm or to exploit them, but to protect them from some human notion of privacy. I do think we need to consider carefully both why we would do this and how it might positively or negatively impact our cause. I believe there's a real danger that we, and by we, I mean scholars driven to advocate for more than human animals, might be perceived and ridiculed for being too woke. And this is an ongoing conversation amongst my peers, which we also touch on in our workshop, problematizing the ethics review process from an anthrozoological perspective. The concern is that by invoking criticisms of being too woke, we might lose credibility or invite distractions from serious issues related to more than human animals. And on the right here, we have an article from The Sun, written last year in response to Peter's support of language that promotes positive attitudes towards more than human animals. While not known for its stellar journalism, The Sun is one of the most popular newspapers in the UK. And while I recognise language is important, I believe subtle and persistent usage is more effective than pushing the narrative that folks should cease to refer to their family dog as a pet. And clearly the general public is still struggling with the suggestion of burying terms such as owner or pet. And now I recognise there are subtle differences between these two examples, but my point is that blurring more than human animal faces in the same way as human faces are blurred invites non-constructive attention and just invites ridicule. Now, if I felt it might be bad for this cat to be recognised by humans, I would certainly feel differently. And in other circumstances, being recognised by humans might not be as harmless as in this example on the left, where a guy apparently recognised his cat on a neighbour's bed. For example, if a neighbour identified a cat scratching their car or pooping in their garden, that cat might be targeted in some way. And I would not share images of cats engaging in what are generally considered nuisance behaviours. But there are other conceivable examples where unintentional harm might result from identification of one or more of my feline research participants. So what I'm struggling with here is how likely this is, and should I be blurring everyone's faces? As I said earlier, respecting the bodily and informational privacy of more than human animals is one more step towards recognizing them as ethically significant beings with agency. But then I argued that this might draw attention away from anything important we might be trying to say. When Google Maps started blurring the faces of more than human animals, social media had a field day with puns. This is from back in 2016, following a widely circulated image of a cow with her face blurred. And while the cases of more than human face blurring was an unintentional consequence of Google's technology, what happens when the media gets hold of scholarly articles or researchers' blogs that insist on blurring faces? Will it draw attention or distract from attempts to recognize more than human animals as being ethically significant beings deserving of respect and dignity? In my practice as an anthrozoologist, as well as in my personal interactions with felines and other animals, my primary concern remains that no one is physically or psychologically harmed by my actions. For sure, bodily privacy matters, and we should seek consent before physical interactions. We can also be mindful of the private spaces of more than human animals. And while I conclude that informational privacy does matter, I'm not exactly sure how a respect for more than human animal privacy should guide my practice as a researcher, or indeed my role as a citizen of a multi-species planet. Because my thinking is still muddy and contradictory, I'd be interested to hear what you think. And if you're unable to attend the allocated session or are watching this after the event, please feel free to contact me and share your thoughts. Thank you.